So today I want to share with you guys, I guess, my only manifestation, the only one that I really purposefully did, and it's hands down easily my most powerful manifestation yet. So I figured, what better place to come to talk to you about this than my favorite place in the whole wide world. This is where I grew up. I was 18 when we first moved to this place, and yeah, it's beautiful, it's awesome, it's very tranquil. Anyway, getting to the first manifestation thing. About 9 months ago, I was in kind of a tough spot, and I was driving this car that wasn't a bad car, but I could tell that something in it might be breaking soon. Nothing was dire or anything like that at the time. I ended up trading it in, and turns out I was wrong because it's totally fine. They were able to sell it. From what I understand, nobody has any complaints about it. You know, it's been 9 months and I haven't heard anything from that dealership that I ended up getting these cars from. But what had happened was, I had it in my mind that it was necessary for me to get a new car. So the car I had at the time was this 2016 Camaro 4-cylinder. So not the V6, not even the V8, just the cheapest base model that they had at the time. And when I bought it, it was used. And my goal had always been, I want to get a V8. You know, one day I'm going to get that V8. And I was told that I didn't have the credit to do it, right? And I didn't really. I didn't have the credit. So I kept getting the runaround every time I go to the dealership and be like, hey, look, I saved up this much money, can I get the V8? Hey, look, my credit went up this much, can I get the V8? And I didn't know at the time that they just didn't want the car back. They did not want that car back. It wasn't selling, even though I got a horrible deal on it. I think they tried to give me 18% interest at first, and it would have been $700 or $800 a month payments on a 4-cylinder, 3-year-old at the time Camaro that was fairly worn, but the bank kicked it back and said, no, this guy doesn't even have the credit to do that. So I guess there's some mercy out there in the universe or something that had my back that said, no, you can't do that. So I ended up with 12% interest on this car, which is astronomical still. That was really, really bad. You can't build your credit. Just for those of you who know, you're not going to be able to build your credit if you have any loans that have 12% interest or higher, like auto loans. Personal loans are a different beast, but I digress. So I have this car, and we have a new baby. You know, my fiance and I have a new baby, and every time at this point in time, I'm living at my parents' house, she's living with her grandma, and I'm working very far away from home, so I have to commute to go to work in this car that's very uncomfortable because of the way it's designed. You know, they're beautiful cars, don't get me wrong. The new Camaros are really, really nice. They're just really, really uncomfortable to commute in or to drive in, and it's doubly so for the passengers, right? So, you know, even though her and I aren't the tallest people, we're actually fairly short, she would be super, super cramped sitting there in the back seat with the baby, and the baby seat would be really, really cramped in the back. So anyway, she also wanted a car. She needed a car. I needed to upgrade my car to a newer car, and ideally I wanted a V8 and better payments, cheaper payments, and I needed, to get her a car, and I needed to get rid of the one that I had. Well, it just so happens that I was upside down on my loan. For those of you in the auto industry, the sales industry, credit industry, you understand what this means when you're upside down on a loan. Basically, it means you owe more money on your loan than the car is worth to sell or to trade in. So in this car, I was somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 or $6,000 upside down, which is a terrible place to be in to get rid of a car. Most dealerships aren't going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And I didn't know quite what I'd done and how unique it was until I went around shopping around to other dealerships after I had done what I'm about to explain had happened, and found out from other dealerships that what I did shouldn't have been possible, shouldn't have been allowed, and that there's no logical way that I could have done it, and that I should just be lucky that I did. Because remember, when I first got this Camaro that I was trying to get out of, I was told it was going to take me 1 to 2 years to build my credit to where I'd be able to get out of it, trade it in, and get a V8. 1 to 2 years of me paying it down like a good little boy and paying off all my negative debt and whatever else that I had on my credit report, right? Which it wasn't even that bad at that point. And I said, well, F that noise. I'm not waiting that long. I don't want to wait a year. So about 8 months later from me getting the car, I was looking over the paperwork and the documentation and everything, and I realized that I had gotten screwed. And I was like, I was upset. I mean, I was, very reasonably quite upset that I had been so taken advantage of. When I was looking over the numbers of the contract and everything, I got ripped off big time. They overcharged me for the car, and then they soaked me for a bunch of, magical add-ons in the finance department that literally did nothing, but they charge you for it as though you're getting some kind of a service, but you're not. And it made me so angry that I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do a little bit of research, and I'm gonna make sure that no matter what happens, I'm never gonna get taken advantage of by a car dealership ever again. It should also be mentioned too, that about the time that I was getting the Camaro, it was because my previous car to that was broken. It was crapping out, and I was getting transferred to a place at work where I was going to be much, much further from home, and the car that I was driving before the Camaro wasn't going to make it. So I was also exploring options of getting a motorcycle again, because I've been riding bikes for about a decade now. Ever since I was a kid, I've been riding motorcycles, and I kind of wanted to get that. So I actually wanted to get a motorcycle way more than I wanted to get that Camaro. The Camaro just kind of fell into my lap, but I would have preferred a motorcycle. And I was told that my credit is so bad, apparently, that I wouldn't even qualify for a $7,000 dirt bike, and that I would basically have to buy it cash. My credit was so bad that I couldn't even get a dirt bike, right? So again, we'll go back to the day where I get the Camaro, and then they tell me it's going to take me years to rebuild my credit, and then fast forward 8 months from then, and I'm at a point where I'm thinking I need to get rid of this car. My fiance needs a car, I need a car, so let's go get a car. So I did my research, and I finally found a car that I believed would be a good deal based on my research. A car that I believed the dealership would be very motivated to sell. And you can do this kind of research on your own. I mean, the information's all out there on the internet. If there's interest in this topic, then maybe I'll make a video on it later, getting very specific as to what I did and the steps that I took and how to negotiate, because I've never negotiated anything in my life. I was always a very pushover kind of person, who was very nice and very people-pleasing, and dealerships prey on that kind of mentality where when you go to the dealership, they want you to think your credit is worse than it actually is. They'll usually not tell you what your credit score is up front when they do finally pull your credit, and they want you to feel guilty about them selling the car at such a low price, so that you'll agree to basically whatever terms that they want. And they play this sort of back and forth. And again, I can get into it more if people are interested in how to kind of beat the dealership game, because it's actually not that hard. And negotiating is actually not that hard either. Coming from someone who did not like confrontation whatsoever at all, I now enjoy negotiation so much that I've actually gone to dealerships just to practice negotiating. Like just to hear the word no, just to see how far I could push it. So anyway, I go to this dealership, and on the way over there, I already have an appointment to look at this car that I own now, which is a 2019 Mustang GT with some safe and secure package. So it's got like lane assist, and it's got adaptive cruise control. It's really, really cool. It's very nice. It's very comfortable. And it's the nicest car I've ever owned, ever. It's probably one of the nicest cars I've ever driven. And it's the nicest car the newest car that I've ever owned or anyone in my family has ever owned. It was paper licensed, brand new. I'm the first owner, and that's never happened in my family, unprecedented. But on the way over to the dealership, I was thinking, you know what? I'm gonna get my fiance a car too. Why not? Why not try it? Like, I feel like the deal is already done with this Mustang. It's already mine. It's as good as mine. I know it is mine. I will leave the dealership with them, with the Mustang. So I'm gonna tack on a car for her too. I'm gonna find another one that's a similar sort of deal. It's called a loss leader, that the dealership is incentivized to sell, and that they will sort of bend the rules of this whole, oh, we have to see, we have to ask the bank kind of thing. So I just do a quick internet search of their website, find a car that I think I like, go to the dealership and say, hey, I'm already done negotiating on the Mustang. I also want this car too. You can give me whatever you want for my Camaro. I just want to walk out of here today with these two cars. So to cut a very long negotiation story short, because it took 9 hours of negotiating, because it was my first ever negotiation, I ended up leaving the dealership with free tint on my Mustang. They threw in free tint for me and free all-weather floor mats on my Mustang. So about $1,000 in value for free, and two cars with zero money down, zero cash in my pocket at all, not a dime to my name, and supposedly credit that wouldn't even allow me to get one car, let alone two brand new cars at the same time for no money down whatsoever. And my interest rate ended up being, get this, 0% on the Mustang, and it ended up being 6% on her car. So both cars put together, the interest rate was less than what my Camaro was. So I decided, hey, you know what? I want to see how far I can take this. So about a day later, I go to our local Ducati dealership here in Hawaii, and I walk in and have the sales guy show me around, show me different bikes, tell me why I should be interested in what bike, and I settle on what is now my 2019 Panigale 959 Corsa. And I say, yeah, you know, I want that. And he goes, oh, all right. And the salesman, you can see, like, doesn't really think that I can afford it. So he's not really treating me with any sort of respect or anything like that. And he just kind of goes through the motions. And it's funny what they do, because they have to do this anyway, I guess, as a sales tactic to make you want the bike. So they'll wheel the bike next to the desk that you're sitting at while they're running your numbers and everything. So you have to just stare at the bike while you're going over this sales stuff. It's really, really funny. Again, I can go deeper in that. I tell him, look, I don't really care what terms it is. I don't give a crap about the monthly payment. All I'm interested in is that I'm doing zero money down. I'm not paying any of the taxes. You guys can roll that in to the bike, the cost of the bike. And I want to be in and out of here as fast as possible. Time is money. So let's just get this done. So that one ended up being done within an hour. From the time that I parked to the time that I rode home on the bike, 1 hour. No money in my pocket again, still. Same credit score as before, and now a third auto loan under my name. So that's the story, I guess. Now keep in mind, a Ducati was my childhood dream. That's the bike that was on the poster on the wall as a kid, right? And I didn't know anything about the law of attraction. I didn't know anything about manifestation. I didn't know anything about creating your own reality. I didn't know anything about taking charge or any of that crap. All I knew was this car is going to be mine, that car is going to be hers, and that bike is going to be mine, and I'm leaving with the bike, period. And I knew that. And because I knew it, even though it was only within a matter of 2 days from making my first decision, it all fell into place instantly without me really needing to say or do anything. In fact, my biggest mistake in the entire process was that I talked too much during my first negotiation. And I learned that that was my mistake. I learned that salesmen are not your friends. I learned not to try and connect with them on an emotional level of any kind. Don't be rude, but there's no reason to be overly friendly either. Be polite, but be curt and to the point. This is what I want. How can we get it here? Let's make this happen right now. I'm ready to sign and leave with this today. So that's my first manifestation. The second ones that I'm working on are considerably larger, and I'm just an average dude, was just an average dude with an average job, definitely not making the kind of money to afford, supposedly, all these vehicles. In fact, It's funny, that actually leads into my whole mental health thing, where my parents had me hospitalized in a mental institution because of what I did, because I come from a background where success is not an option, failure is an option, we are victims and we must suffer forever, and we will always be poor, and everyone is poor, and rich people are just very lucky. So for my parents to see me come home with a Ducati, they about had a heart attack. Everyone went into complete conniptions. So I must be crazy because I was talking about success and I was talking about getting things done. So they actually locked me up and tried to get rid of the Ducati, but luckily enough for me, the dealership didn't let that happen, and my dad doesn't have power of attorney over me because I'm an adult. But that's my story. I hope you liked it. I have a million more where that comes from. Trust me, God knows I can talk. But hopefully the quality is getting better. I got a mic. Look who got a mic now, fancy me. And soon I may actually even be editing these videos so that they make chronological sense. Can you imagine that? So that sounds fun to you. If you want to hear more stories about my weird flexes and me manipulating the fabric of reality to my desires, like, subscribe, share. They all help me grow and they help me get my message out there. And eventually we're going to steer into topics about how you guys can do it too. I'm the kind of person where I like to stress test all of my theories first before I show anybody else how to do it. I want to understand it inside and out, front and back, up and down, before I try to teach anything to anyone, even for free, because I don't want to leave any room for error to say that it was my fault that somebody made the mistake of their life or something. You know what I mean? But you should take responsibility for your own actions. Don't take advice from anybody and then blame that person that you acted on that advice. Be an adult and think before you do things. Anyway, thanks for listening. Hopefully most of this made sense. See you next time.